The paper bag and the hidden peanut started with a paper bag, greasy at the bottom, warm to the touch. Packed with love and sealed with quiet hope, Maria Lopez, 24 years old, had just stepped out of her fourth delivery of the day. Her sneakers were soaked from a morning rainstorm. Her hoodie was stained from a spilled smoothie she hadn't even ordered. And her phone kept buzzing with late payments from customers who promised to tip later. She didn't complain because Maria was used to being invisible. She had dropped out of college to care for her mother after the stroke. She worked 2 jobs, morning shifts at the flower shop, afternoon deliveries with her old bike and a phone, so cracked it looked like lightning had struck the screen. She smiled every day. Even when no one smiled back, it was supposed to be a normal Thursday until she turned the corner on Westfield Street and slammed directly into someone. The paper bag exploded between them. Soup splashed. Rice flew. A plastic fork shot like a rocket into the gutter. Maria stumbled back, mortified. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said quickly, bending to clean the mess. "I didn't see the man bent down too. No worries. Should have been watching." Maria froze, his voice. It sounded familiar. She looked up. He was wearing a simple black cap pulled low, a plain gray jacket, and dark jeans. But the eyes, gentle, quiet, little tired, were unmistakable. Keanu Reeves. He knelt beside her, helping pick up spilled rice with his bare hands. "You okay?" he asked softly. Maria blinked. Yeah, I think so. It's just lunch." It wasn't for me, it was for a customer. But he smiled, holding out an empty soup cup. "Well, I've had worse greetings." She laughed nervously, still on her knees. Not sure if she should keep cleaning or apologize again, or cry. "I really am sorry," she whispered. Keanu shrugged. "I've had days like that." Maria glanced at his shoes. Black boots, slightly scuffed. Not what she expected a Hollywood star to wear. She hadn't even known he was in the city. "Are you filming something?" she asked, regretting the question instantly. He stood and offered his hand. "Just walking today." She took it. His hand was warm, steady. He pulled her up gently. Maria looked at the ruined bag in her arms. "I think I just lost a 5-star rating." Keanu chuckled. "How much was the order?" $9, she sighed. "And 2 hours of walking." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded bill. "This should cover it." She looked down. $100 note. Her eyes widened. "Oh no, I can't. I don't want it." "Okay," he said. "Just use it to take a break. Maybe get lunch for yourself." Maria shook her head. "You don't have to do that." "Maybe not," he said. "But today I want to." She hesitated, then took the bill, folding it with shaking fingers. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled again, almost like he didn't want her to remember him for being famous. Maybe just for being kind. Then he turned and walked away. And Maria stood there on Westfield Street, holding a ruined paper bag and $100 memory. She didn't tell anyone at first. Not her manager, not her mom, not her friend Rosa, who would have screamed with excitement because something about it felt quiet. Personal, but later that night, Maria found herself writing about it in her old journal. She hadn't opened it in months, maybe years. She wrote, "He saw me. Not just me as a delivery girl. He looked at me like I mattered. Like I wasn't just someone in the way." She didn't know that while she was writing those words, something else was happening on the other side of town. Keanu had returned to a quiet cafe near the edge of the city where no one ever asked for autographs. He sat in the corner, sipped tea, and stared at his phone. On the screen, an old message from a woman named Emily. His sister Emily had gone missing 3 years ago. Or rather, she had left quietly, lost in her pain, vanishing into the corners of the world no one writes about. He had looked for her, searched every city she'd once visited, every place she might have felt safe, but nothing. And then today, something unexpected. An anonymous tip sent to his private email. Westfield Street. 1 p.m. Look for the girl with the broken phone. She knows something. He didn't know who sent it. He didn't know why. But when he turned the corner that day, he didn't just bump into Maria. He had been looking for her. And now, he had questions the next morning. Maria woke to rain again. She slipped on her wet sneakers, grabbed her delivery bag, kissed her mother gently on the forehead. "I'll be back by sunset," she whispered, but something felt different. The city buzzed louder. Her phone pinged with strange notifications. She ignored them, focused only on her routes, and then, near lunchtime, her app directed her back to Westfield Street. Her stomach tightened. She didn't want to go back. What if she saw him again? What if she embarrassed herself again? But duty called. She walked the same block, past the same gutter where the plastic fork had landed yesterday. And then just as she approached the building, he was there, waiting. Keanu Reeves, this time with an umbrella. He stepped forward and offered it to her. "Forgot your raincoat," she blinked. "At your back," he nodded. "Would be too." Maria stared, confused. "Did I do something?" Keanu paused. "Do you know a woman named Emily Reeves?" Maria froze. Her fingers tightened around the delivery bag. "Why?" she asked quietly. Keanu stepped closer, because someone said you might have seen her, or met her, or helped her. Maria lowered her eyes. "I don't know her," she said. "But I think I met someone who used that name once." "When?" Keanu asked. "Months ago," Maria said. "She came into the flower shop where I worked in the mornings." She didn't speak much, just pointed at a daisy and smiled. Keanu's voice cracked. "Daisy? That was her favorite flower." Maria looked up at him. She had a scar. "Right here," she said, touching the corner of her eyebrow. Keanu nodded. "I guess. From when she was 9. Maria felt her chest tighten. She paid in cash, but left a note behind. "A note?" Keanu asked. Maria reached into her bag. She had kept it folded between old receipts and wrappers. She handed it to him. On it were just 4 words, scrawled in faded ink. "Hope lives in strangers." Keanu stared at it, and then, without warning, tears filled his eyes. He had searched every corner of the world, and hope had waited in a paper bag. On Westfield Street, the flower shop, and the secret noteth, sky over the city remained gray. As Maria stepped back into her apartment later that evening, the rain had come and gone again, leaving behind puddles that reflected tired neon lights. Her hoodie was soaked, her socks cold, and her arms ached from a full day of deliveries. But her heart felt different, because Keanu Reeves had come back, not to give money, not to offer kindness, but to ask about his sister. And she had given him a piece of the puzzle he'd been searching for. As Maria quietly placed her delivery bag on the kitchen counter, her mother glanced over from the couch. "Long day?" her mom asked gently. "Yeah," Maria said with a soft smile. But something happened. She didn't say more. She didn't mention Keanu. Her mother had enough worries already, doctor bills, groceries, breathing without pain. But Maria couldn't stop thinking about it, that note. Those 4 words, "Hope lives in strangers." She'd read them dozens of times since finding the paper in the flower shop. The woman who left it had walked in like a ghost, barefoot, with messy hair and a calm sadness in her eyes. Maria remembered how she didn't speak, just pointed to the daisy, paid in wrinkled bills, and left the note tucked beneath the cash, and then disappeared. At the time, Maria thought she was just another quiet soul passing through the city, but now she wondered if that moment was the start of something far bigger. The next morning, Maria returned to the flower shop for her early shift. She had worked there for almost a year. It wasn't glamorous, mostly unpacking boxes, trimming stems, arranging small bouquets for people in a hurry. But the owner, Mrs. Delgado, was kind, and the smell of fresh petals always reminded her of her grandmother's garden back in Mexico as she stepped inside. The small bell above the door jing-led. Mrs. Delgado looked up from behind the counter. Mia, you're early." Maria smiled, couldn't sleep. She grabbed her apron, tied it tight, and began sorting lilies from the delivery box. Her hands moved on their own trim, arranged, but her mind wandered. Keanu had asked if she knew Emily, and now, for the first time, Maria realized she hadn't just met a stranger. She had felt something when that woman walked in. A pull, a quiet ache. After 15 minutes, she looked up. Mrs. Delgado. Shh. Do you remember the barefoot woman who came in a few months ago and bought just a daisy? Mrs. Delgado tilted her head. Daisy? Oh, yes. Quiet woman. She hummed a song. I can't remember the words. Maria stepped forward. Was it I'll follow you into the light? Mrs. Delgado's eyes widened. Yes, that's it? You know the song? No, Maria said softly. Someone else does. Mrs. Delgado paused. Why are you asking? Maria looked down at her hands. Because I think she wasn't just anyone. Someone's looking for her. Mrs. Delgado walked around the counter and placed a hand on Maria's shoulder. You have a good heart, child, but be careful. Some stories carry more weight than we can lift. Maria nodded, but deep inside, she had already decided she wanted to help Keanu find his sister, even if it meant digging deeper than she ever had before. Later that afternoon, Maria's delivery route brought her to an upscale business park. Tall buildings, shiny elevators, glass doors that needed codes to open. She checked the order on her app. Suite 14 Billion Rose Foundation. She'd never delivered here before. As she walked in, she noticed something strange. Security guards pacing more than usual, whispering into radios. A sleek black SUV was parked near the side exit. Engine still running. Something felt off. Still, she climbed the stairs and reached the 14th floor. She knocked a young man in a suit open the door halfway. Lunch. Maria held up the bag. Thai noodles and a smoothie. He opened the door, but just behind him stood Keanu, his face lit up. Maria, her eyes widened. What are you doing here? He stepped forward. The Rose Foundation was one of Emily's favorite charities. She used to volunteer here before she disappeared. I came to ask questions. And now you show up with lunch. She laughed softly. What are the odds? He smiled, then turned serious. I need to show you something. He led her into a side room where documents were spread across a table. Photos, maps, old letters. In the center was a picture of Emily. Maria recognized her instantly. The same eyes, the same calm sadness. That's her, Maria said. The woman who bought the daisy. Keanu looked relieved. Then we're close. He picked up another photo and handed it to her. Have you seen this? Maria stared. It was a small book hand-bound, with pressed flowers tucked between the pages on the cover, written in faded ink. Light follows the quiet ones, Maria gasped. Yes, that was with her. Where? Keanu asked, leaning forward. The day she came to the shop, she'd left the note under her payment, but she carried that book in her hand. Keanu's voice dropped. She used to keep that book when she was a child, wrote poems in it. After our father died, she stopped writing. If she has it now, it means she's trying to hold on, Maria whispered. Then she's still alive. Keanu nodded slowly. We just need to find her. But before either of them could speak again, the door flew open. A man in a dark coat stepped in, eyes sharp, voice cold. Mr. Reeves, you've been warned not to dig. Keanu stood, calm but firm. I'm not digging. I'm remembering. Man glanced at Maria. And who is she? Keanu stepped in front of her. Someone with more heart than you'll ever understand. You're making things difficult, the man growled. Let her reason. Let her go. Keanu didn't flinch. No. The man turned and walked out. Maria's hands were shaking. Who was that? Someone who wants the past buried, Keanu said. But not today. He turned to Maria and whispered, You found the beginning of something. I don't know why she came to you, but I believe she left a trail. Maria looked at him, then we follow it. Outside the window, the rain returned once again. But this time, Maria didn't feel cold. She felt ready. Asterisk, the daisy trailet was raining again. Not heavy, not wild, just soft enough to blur the outlines of things. Maria Lopez stood by the bus stop, her fingers curled tightly around the umbrella Keanu had given her 2 days ago. It wasn't just a shield from the rain anymore, it was a reminder of a moment, of a mission, of something real in a world that usually passed her by. She hadn't told her mother anything, not about the second meeting, not about the book, not about the man in the black coat who threatened Keanu with quiet authority. How could she? You explained to someone that you were delivering lunch, and now you were part of something bigger than your own quiet life. Beside her, the street buzzed with engines and wet footsteps. But inside Maria's chest, her heart beat with purpose. Keanu had asked her for help, and she had said yes. 2 hours earlier, they'd met at the same quiet cafe he'd sat in before. The waitress didn't flinch when he walked in. She simply nodded and poured tea like he was anyone else. But Maria noticed how she always placed the cup a little neater for him. Maybe kindness recognized kindness. Keanu leaned across the table. I went through the volunteer records of the Rose Foundation. Emily signed in under a different name? Duh. Maria raised her eyebrows. What name? Lucia Hart, he said softly. Hart was our mother's maiden name. That means she wanted to be found. Just not easily, Maria said. Keanu nodded. I traced that alias to a community garden in East Parkview, but there's no official entry, just a note. Maria tilted her head. What kind of note? He slid a photo across the table. It was a daisy pressed into a paper card. On the bottom, a handwritten line. She planted hope and left with silence. Maria whispered, That's her. Keanu looked at her. Will you come with me? She paused. Yeah. You really trust me that much? Keanu smiled. He noticed her. When no one else did, East Parkview was far from the shiny downtown towers. The streets were cracked, playgrounds rusted. Buildings sagged like old men in pain, but near the edge, surrounded by chain-link fence and ivy, was the garden of place. Of color in a world of gray dot, Keanu parked the car quietly. Maria stepped out with her hood up. The rain kissed her face like a soft memory. A volunteer greeted them, an old woman in a red scarf with strong hands. Can I help you? She asked. We're looking for someone, Keanu said. Have gardened here a few months ago. Short hair, quiet. Might have used the name Lucia. The woman's eyes didn't change, but she pointed toward the far side of the garden. Third row. Under the willow tree, she planted daisies. Keanu and Maria followed the gravel path until they reached it, and there it was, a row of yellow and white daisies, healthy, alive, cared for. Maria knelt beside them. Something was stuck in the soil. A small tin locket. Half buried, she pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Keanu leaned down and took it with careful fingers. He unfolded the note. I'm not gone. I'm healing. Don't follow me unless you're ready to forgive. Maria felt the air leave her lungs. What does it mean? She asked. Keanu stared at the note, his voice quiet, before she disappeared. We fought badly. I told her she was weak for leaving rehab. I was angry, scared, and she walked out, left everything. Maria touched his arm. But now you know she's alive. He nodded. But forgiveness. That's not just hers to ask. It's mine to give. Just then, the old woman appeared. Again, holding something wrapped in cloth. She left this for someone, the woman said. Said one day a man with a soft voice would come looking. Keanu reached out and unwrapped it. It was a second book, hand-bound. It's like the first. This one titled, Where the Light Ends. Maria whispered, She's telling you a story. Keanu looked at her. A story only I'll understand. That evening, back in Maria's small apartment, she sat by the window. Her mother asleep in the next room. On her table sat a copy of the book Keanu had let her borrow. Just for one night, she flipped through it. Page after page filled with words that weren't perfect, but real. Soft ink, broken thoughts, dreams of starting over, and always. The daisy drawn in margins, pressed between pages. Maria picked up her phone and texted Keanu. She was never lost. She just needed space to find herself again, replied minutes later. And now maybe I'm the one who's lost, but you. You helped me remember how to look. Maria smiled. And just then, something unexpected happened. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. A new message. One line. The next flower blooms where silence lives. Trust the girl with the cracked phone. Maria's hands trembled. Someone was watching. Someone who knew. Someone who had been leaving a trail for both of them all along. And maybe now, it was her turn to lead. The girl with the cracked phone, Maria, stared at her screen, the message glowing faintly in the dim light of her kitchen. The next flower blooms where silence lives. Trust the girl with the cracked phone. She held her breath for a long moment, as if the phone might say something else. But it didn't. It just stayed there quiet and broken like her, like the life she had been living for years, unnoticed, underestimated. But now, someone was watching her, and somehow someone trusted her. And strangely, it gave her strength. By morning, Maria sat across from Keanu at a diner on 5th and Vine. A plate of eggs untouched, her cracked phone screen between them. She slid the phone toward him. This came last night. Keanu read the message twice. Then again, this can't be random, he said. This has to be Emily. Maria nodded. But how does she know about my phone? Keanu looked at her. You told me the day we met. Your phone screen cracked when you dropped it outside your mom's clinic. Yeah, Maria replied. I had just come out crying. The bills were too much. I dropped the phone, and it broke right there on the sidewalk. Keanu leaned forward. And who helped you that day? Maria's eyes widened. A woman. Hey, I thought she was a nurse. She gave me tissues, didn't speak, just smiled and handed me a flower. What kind of flower? Maria's throat tightened. A daisy. They stared at each other in silence. Then Keanu whispered, Emily's been watching you longer than we knew. Maria whispered, Why? Keanu smiled faintly. 'Cause she doesn't just leave trails, she leaves protectors. Maria blinked. Me. You helped her when she was invisible, he said. Now she's helping you find. Her Maria exhaled slowly. So what do we do now? Keanu pulled out the second book, the one from the garden. He opened to the last page. A poem. In silence, I bloom under shadows. I breathe where the world forgets. Hope remembers me, Maria tilted her head. She's trying to tell us something. Keanu nodded. She always used poetry as direction. Metaphors instead of maps. Maria pulled out her own journal, the one she hadn't touched in years. She flipped to the page where she had written about their first meeting. There it was. The sentence she had written down without thinking. He saw me like I mattered. Maria looked up. She's showing us where she's been. By connecting the people who mattered to her. Keanu whispered, and you're one of them. Later that day, they returned to the flower shop. Mrs. Delgado welcomed them with a warm smile and hot tea. You're looking for her again? You think she left something here? Maria said softly. They searched the back room behind boxes. Under old wrapping paper rolls, nothing. But as Maria swept near the storage shelf, her broom hit something. Hollow. She knelt a small metal box. Locked. Keanu gently picked it up at Daisy, who scratched into the lid. She used to hide her drawings in boxes like this, he whispered. When she was scared, Maria held out her phone. The cracked screen still flickered. The light bounced off the box's keyhole just right. She noticed a shape etched into the side. A tiny number 9 to 6. Double quotes. Try this. Maria said. Her birthday. September 26th. Keanu entered the code on the side dial. Click. The box opened. Inside dash another. Dote. But this one was different. Typed official. Maria read aloud. Patient discharged from center. Marked high risk. Surveillance discontinued. Subject eluded contact. Report. Emotional instability unresolved. Recommend non-intervention. Keanu's hand shook. This is from her treatment center. Maria's eyes narrowed. They gave up on her. Keanu nodded. But she didn't give up on herself. Beneath the report was a key. Attached to it a tag. Quiet Blossom, Unit 3B. Maria whispered, That's an apartment complex. Keanu nodded. I've seen it. Old building, barely operating. Near the train yard, Maria stood. Then let's go. The complex was crumbling. Stairs rusted. Walls faded. Broken window blinds like torn paper. Keanu and Maria climbed slowly. Each step creaked. The silence was deep. They reached Unit 3B. The door was slightly ajar. Keanu pushed it gently. Inside was stillness. Not empty, not abandoned. Just still. A single chair, a vase, a pressed daisy, a photographed Emily, smiling beside a mural. Maria stepped closer and gasped. The mural on the wall, painted by hand, was of a cracked phone glowing in the dark. Beneath it, in white paint, she carried broken light. Still she shined. Maria covered her mouth. Keanu's voice cracked. She was here. Shadow moved in the hallway. Maria turned. A woman stood at the far end, coat wrapped tight, hair short. Eyes full of old pain. Emily, Keanu whispered, "M." She didn't run. She didn't speak. She just stared, and then tears fell down her face. Keanu stepped slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. But Maria stepped first and held out her cracked phone. "You left me hope," she said softly. "Now let us give some back." Emily closed her eyes, then nodded, a small, trembling nod, and in that hallway, something healed. Asterisk, where broken lights gather, the hallway was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels cold, but the kind that feels like a breath finally taken after years underwater. Keanu stood frozen. Sister Melly Reeves stood just feet away. The last time he saw her, her eyes had been filled with rage. Now they were filled with water, soft, broken, wide. Maria stood between them. Not because she meant to, but because somehow that was her place now between what had been lost and what might be found again. "Brome," Keanu whispered. "You're alive." Emily nodded. Keanu took a step forward, then another. He didn't run, didn't rush, just moved like someone who had learned that healing needed patience. Emily didn't back away. Maria gently stepped aside and placed a hand on Emily's shoulder as she passed. "You found your way back, Maria?" said softly. "I didn't," Emily said. "You did." They sat on the floor of the small apartment. No chairs, no couch, just a few folded blankets, a stack of poetry books, and a single framed photograph of a woman holding two small children in front of a sunflower field. Keanu looked at it. "Mom," Emily nodded. "I brought it with me when I left." "Why?" he asked. "Because even when I hated you," she said gently, "I still wanted to hold on to something we both loved." He lowered his head. Maria sat across from them, holding the second book, the one titled Where the Light Ends. "Your poems," Maria said. "They saved us." Emily's eyes shifted. "I didn't think anyone would read them." Keanu looked up. "I read every word, every line, every pause." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe they were enough." But Maria wasn't done. She pulled out the old treatment report, the one they had found in the box behind the flower shop. "They gave up on you," Maria said. "They labeled you unstable, erased your trail." Emily's hands trembled slightly. "That's why I ran. Not from healing, but from the idea that I couldn't be healed." Keanu placed a hand over hers. "You were never the problem. They just didn't see you." "But she did," Emily said, turning to Maria. Maria's cheeks flushed. "I didn't do anything. You gave me a daisy on a day I felt like disappearing." Emily whispered. "You smiled at me when I forgot what that felt like. You saw me when I was trying to forget myself." Maria wiped her eyes. "You gave me hope first." Emily looked at Keanu. "And you never stopped looking." "How could I, my sister?" Later that night, the three of them walked down the street under a sky filled with blinking stars. They didn't have a destination, just motion, just movement forward. Emily clutched a small bag with her books and the old photograph. Maria walked on her left. Keanu on her right. They didn't talk much. There were no grand speeches, just the sound of footsteps and occasional soft laughter. When they reached Westfield Street, the same corner where Maria had first crashed into, Keanu Emily stopped. She pointed to the bench by the old newsstand. "That's where I watched you," she said to Maria. "The day you dropped your phone, you cried. And I knew that feeling. I wanted to help, but I couldn't speak." "You didn't need to," Maria replied. "You left a flower. It was more than enough." Keanu looked around. The street looked the same, but now it felt completely different. Because sometimes the biggest changes happen inside people, not places. "Do you still write?" Maria asked. Emily smiled. Every day, then you need to share it, Keanu said. Others need your words the way I did, Emily hesitated. What if they don't understand? Maria touched her shoulder. Then you'll still reach the ones who do. By the end of the week, Maria helped Emily set up a small blog. They called it the Daisy Trail. The first poem posted was one Emily had never shared before. It was titled, The Girl with the Cracked Phone. It began like this. She didn't. No, her light could carry mine with every step she took. I remembered how to walk not in fear, but in color. The blog went viral within days. Not because it was trendy, but because it was true, Maria. Didn't tell anyone it was about her. She didn't need to. But Keanu told one reporter quietly, sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they carry soup in a paper bag and smile at strangers. One evening, Maria sat with her mom in the tiny living room. They watched the sunset through the cracked window pane. Her mom, holding Maria's hand, said, You've been different lately. How lighter, she said. Like someone helped you carry the weight. Maria smiled.
Maybe I helped someone too.
A knock came at the door. Maria opened it. Keanu stood there with a bouquet of daisies and a brown paper bag. Thought it was time I returned the favor, said. Maria laughed and let him in because sometimes the people we crash into change everything. And sometimes they crash into us for the same reason. Hope, like flowers, grows quietly a week past. Then, too, the world around Maria seemed to move faster now. The girl who once rushed through alleys and late lunches now found herself pausing for sunsets, listening to strangers and remembering that kindness once given ever truly disappears. It echoes. One morning, she stood inside the flower shop tying a daisy to a bouquet when the bell above the door jingled. She looked up expecting Mrs. Delgado or a regular. Instead, it was Emily. Clean jeans, soft gray sweater, brighter eyes. Maria smiled. Emily smiled. Back. Thought I'd come back to the place it all started. Maria walked around the counter and hugged her tightly. How are you feeling? She asked. Stronger, Emily said. Not perfect, but strong. Maria stepped back. That's more than enough. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a small folded card. For you, she said. Maria opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. Your crack let my light in. Thank you for not being whole. Maria blinked back tears. Emily said. I used to be ashamed of being broken, but now I see it differently. Maria laughed. You were never broken, just beautifully dented. They both laughed. And in that small shop, two women who didn't look like heroes, who didn't ask to be noticed, stood side by side, quietly reminding each other that ordinary people can change everything. A few days later, the blog, The Daisy Trail, hit 1 million
Followers?
Not because it was popular, but because it was honest. The posts weren't flashy. No filters, no clickbait. Just poetry, handwritten notes, and quiet thoughts about healing, hope, and how sometimes being seen by just one person is enough to feel real again. One of the most shared posts came from Maria herself. Keanu had convinced her to write something. She posted a photo of her cracked phone. Under it, she wrote, I used to hate this screen. It made me feel small. But one day, someone important looked past it and saw me instead. Below the post, people from all over the world left comments. This made me cry at the bus stop. I work deliveries too. Now I feel proud. Sometimes strangers save us. Thank you. Maria didn't reply to all of them, but she read every single one, because once upon a time, she thought she was just a girl with aching legs, a paper bag, and a forgotten name. Now she knew better. Keanu returned to his quiet life, but something had shifted in him too. He no longer searched the world looking for his sister. He looked inward, toward the people he passed daily, the barista with tired eyes, the doorman who held the elevator, the woman waiting at the corner in the rain, and every once in a while, he'd pull over, hand someone a daisy, and walk away. Not because he wanted recognition, but because someone once handed him hope, and it had changed him forever. 1 year later. Maria stood at the front of a small outdoor reading event held in the same park where Emily used to plant daisies. Kids sat on picnic blankets. Adults leaned forward on foldable chairs. Keanu sat in the back quietly, wearing a hoodie and sipping. Maria held the microphone with slightly shaking hands. Then she began to read. Hope is not loud. It doesn't scream or wave flags. It walks quietly beside the tired. It hides in paper bags. It lives inside cracked screens. And sometimes, it waits in strangers. When she finished, no one clapped right away. They just breathed out slowly, fully, like the world itself had paused to listen. And then, a standing ovation. Maria looked at Emily, who was now running a small nonprofit for mental health awareness. She looked at Keanu, who gave her a single nod, no words, just quiet pride. And then she looked at the kids wide-eyed, open-hearted, ready to hear about things like kindness and daisy trails and strangers. Change everything, because they were the future, and now they had the story. A story that started with spilled soup, a cracked phone, a girl who bumped into a stranger, knowing he would help her change the world.